Which is the best Conan the Barbarian sword? Is it the iconic Atlantean sword, or is it Conan's father's sword? Hi folks, Matt Eaton here, Scholar Gladiator. So I'm at Windlass's headquarters in Dehradun in India at the moment, which means I'm getting hands-on with lots of things that I normally don't have access to at home. Now I thought what a great opportunity to look at some weapons from Conan. We've already looked at the fangs of the serpent, but now we're going to compare two very iconic and heavy swords. This is like weight training, I'm telling you. We've got the Atlantean sword here, the sword that Conan finds in the tomb. And we've got his father's sword that we see being forged at the beginning of the movie. Now, spoiler warning, if you haven't seen Conan the Barbarian, what the hell are you doing with your life? Go and watch it now. For those of you who haven't seen it, this is a spoiler warning that I'm now going to mention things from the movie. So, those of you who are still with us and who have seen the movie, you will know that in the movie, this sword breaks. So therefore we could simply finish this video there and go, well, this sword broke against this sword, so this is the best sword. There we go, bye! But no, I'm going to say a bit more than that. So if we assume that metallurgically they are both equal, they're both made of the same steel and they've got the same heat treatment and they're used in the same way, so they're just as durable as each other. Which of these is a better sword? So I'm going to be candid with you for a second and just talk about my opinion, because I actually don't do that very often. So this Atlantean sword is the one that everyone seems to want and everybody loves because they love posing and trying to do Arnie poses after they've been at the gym and that kind of stuff. So everyone loves the Atlantean sword and they love holding it backwards and doing, I'm not going to do it in here because I don't have enough space, doing their little routines. They just love this sword because they want to be Arnie, okay? But even as a teenager, I always preferred the look of this sword. This to me looks, although it's only superficially, it looks more like a Viking sword. It looks more like a barbarian sword, which is completely correct because, of course, this is a barbarian sword, and in a way, this isn't. This was found in a tomb in the south. This is from Conan's homeland, made by his tribe, made by his people, made by his father specifically. But not only that, I just think this looks cooler. I love the flare at the bottom of the blade there. I love the way that seats up against. I absolutely love the skull on the base of the guard. I absolutely love the fact that the pommel is a hoof, like a goat hoof or something like that. I just love the whole look of it, and I also love the proportions of it. I like the simplicity of the blade, which frankly looks like a Ewart Oakeshott Type 10 blade from an actual Viking sword. But then you've got a sort of hand and a half grip. Okay, so it's not a full two-handed grip. To me, this kind of looks like a long gripped one-handed sword rather than a two-handed sword. But I tell you, it's quite heavy, folks. But gripping this two hands, it's long enough. It's as long as most wakizashi and certainly as some katana hilts. So you've still got a decent amount of grip, considering it's not a particularly long blade. It's a very broad and heavy blade, but it's not a particularly long blade. So that being the case, actually this is probably enough hilt for that. I just think this looks super cool. But in practical terms, is the Atlantean actually a better sword? Well, first of all, the Atlantean's heavier, and there's a number of reasons for that. One of them being that you've got these massive, great bronze bracers, languettes, I don't know what you want to call them, up the base of the ricasso, the base of the blade. But also it's got a bigger, heavier pommel, and it's a longer blade. So if I just put them side by side, you can actually see that the Atlantean has got a longer hilt, and it's got a slightly longer blade. So, oh my gosh, I'm getting out of breath actually handling this. So this is a massive sword, and if you just want to do weight training, then the Atlantean is the sword for you, and you will end up like Arnie. I wouldn't advise pushing a large wooden wheel around for 20 years though, because it would probably give you quite bad deformity. But anyway, this is a bigger sword. So this is going to hit harder, it will reach further, it will chop deeper into large creatures like giant serpents, and it's got more grip space. So you can get a bit of gap between it. If you put your hand right the way down at the pommel, you can actually get some gap between the hands, which gives you more leverage and more control over the weapon, and more reach. So, in a sense, this is a more powerful weapon and far-reaching weapon than the father's sword. But I still prefer the look of the father's sword. So I'm not going to conclude that by saying one sword is necessarily better than the other. I think that the father's sword is a bit more nimble and a bit more versatile. The Atlantean sword is really heavy for its size. Yes, of course I can lift it. It's not heavy compared to a dumbbell, but you don't swing a dumbbell or a kettlebell around in the same way that you're supposed to swing a sword around. The sword is supposed to be fairly fast. So whilst this might be a special use, very powerful weapon, a bit like a sledgehammer for specific uses, I feel that this is actually closer to a more practical fighting weapon. So there we go, folks. Absolute bombshell. Matt Easton prefers Conan's father's sword, so long as it doesn't break, over the Atlantean. But I've got to say, what absolutely iconic, amazing designs. And it's actually a lot of fun playing around with these. So check those out. These are made by Windlass. I'll put a link below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you again back on the channel. Cheers, folks.